أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu, my dear people. Welcome to another episode of She Cares. That's what we have decided to call the series. And today we
Mhm.
have with us Sister Fareeha Subar. She is a student of holistic midwifery and a women's health practitioner. She's a homeschooling mom to 7 children. And very surprisingly, she has made Hijra to Pakistan from the UK. It is the day and age where everyone is leaving Pakistan or leaving third world countries and moving to the West. And subhanAllah, she's among few of those that I know who has made hijrah to Pakistan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear sister.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. Jazakallah khair, Bela, for inviting me here. I have to say before we even start is that I was watching your previous podcast and I felt really embarrassed to be here because I'm not as esteemed as or has the same caliber as your previous guests. And I'm thinking, why did she even invite me? Subhanallah. But Jazakallah khair.
Subhanallah, each one of us have been blessed with our own unique talents that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, and each one of us is unique and have the caliber that we need to have, inshallah. So, Fariha, we will start by a very simple question. What do you want to tell us about yourself? Because the objective of having you here is to, represent the women who are fulfilling their responsibilities as a wife, as a mother, and then they are balancing their passion as well. So, first up, let us know who Fariha is.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على إمام المرسلين وعلى آله أصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear sisters that are watching this. To be honest, I'm just an average mother of, alhamdulillah, Allah has blessed me with a small tribe. And I think when people see me, they know me as probably the homeschooling mother. More so in Pakistan since I've been here, it's probably the one who helps mum give birth or the natural birthing uh, environment. When someone gets pregnant and that my name pops up, and I think that's probably what I'm known for right at the moment. However, I have to say that I feel when working with more and more women that the nurturer, the connection that each mother needs and desires, maybe without even realizing, is something that I think I've slowly started to evolve to become. So it's a lot more than just pregnancy and birth. It's more the reconnecting women to themselves, to their inner innate ability to take care of themselves, but not only themselves, but to serve their families, which leads on to the ummah. And I can see your own your coffee as well, and mine. And I think something recently that happened. I think it was probably in the last a year and a half that changed the way I thought as a woman was the recent events of Gaza. Because I think when we saw the women, how they were dealing with the situations there, and these are average women, um, it made me really think about, as women, what are we doing? What are we doing in our homes? How are we raising our children so that we are in a position to be able to endure anything that comes towards us? And I think right now, I feel that's what I try to implement in what I do as a mother, as a wife, as a midwife, as an educator, as a nurturer in the lives of the women that I interact with every day.
Thank you, Fariha. That makes a lot of sense. So, Fariha, I'm sure that you're aware of the fact that it is still a new concept in Pakistan. I mean, subhanAllah, it has been a very old concept. It's like a very traditional concept for us, midwifery and holistic and natural birth. But still, it just took a back seat when hospital and surgeries and all of that came up. Now, my question to you is, are Pakistani people catching up? Are they aware? Or if they are not aware, what is that you would like to tell us about what is this holistic healthcare is, or what is this natural childbirth is that we can benefit from?
I think actually when I came to Pakistan, I was very surprised. I was very surprised of what I was faced with. I came to Pakistan with six children, alhamdulillah, and I thought it was going to be quite easy here. People accepting, yeah, they that you've got four, three, four, five, six children. That's normal. Muslims, they have big families. But every time I mentioned, they asked me, how many children do you have? And when I mentioned the number, I saw the shock on their faces. And this is other Muslims. I've come from a non-Muslim country, and the shock on their faces, and this puzzled me. And then I asked, why? What's this situation? Why are you so shocked that we have, as a Muslim, has, Allah blesses you with this number of children? And they were like, two's enough, or one's enough, or how could you go through it so many times? And at the beginning, I just didn't understand until I realized they were not in a position to be able to even mention what happened at their own births. They were traumatized, and I couldn't go past this conversation with them until I got to know the community a lot better, and then we started having more conversations. And then I realized what was happening in the hospitals um, was actually deterring people away from having more children. It wasn't that they did not want to have more children, it was just they didn't want to go through that process. And coming from the UK at that time, I mean, it's been, I think, 10 years now since I left that country, but it was a very sort of like pro-natural, very uh, non-interventional sort of pregnancy and birth. And so this is what I was used to, and I took this for granted. When I moved to Muslim countries, I realized that this is not the standard, this is not default. And this is what shocked me because when I came to the Muslim land, I thought, subhanAllah, what Allah has given us, the body, to be able to have a physiological birth, which means that Allah has given us everything that we need to birth this baby. And yet, in the Muslim lands, I noticed that they were so far from the natural fitra of how we need to birth our babies, or even just to go through pregnancies, that it seemed like where I was coming from in the UK, that they're more closer to what Allah has taught us, what Allah has given us, what Allah has blessed us, than the lands of the Muslims. And this is not the fault of the Muslims. It's got a lot to do with past colonizations and changes in the literature and the medical system. But it was sad because I felt that they were still decades behind and they had some time to catch up on. And when I offered an alternative to what they were going through, and I said, well, actually, you don't have to go through this. And I was shocked at some of the procedures that were happening. I said, this is not normal, but this is what was considered normal in Pakistan. And it wasn't an opportunity for them to even question it. They wouldn't even think about questioning it. And that's when I realized that, I can't see women go through this because this is trauma, because this is something that actually affects the rest of their lives, not just their pregnancy and birth. It affects their mental well-being throughout postpartum and throughout the rest of the raising of their own children and from postpartum into their menopausal years. So this was serious. This is like deteriorating the Muslim Ummah through the mother. And that's when I decided, when I was actually here in Pakistan. Then I was blessed with a pregnancy here in Pakistan. And then I realized that it was possible for anyone to have my experience, that the experience that I took for granted, it should be everybody's experience. But I realized that if I was going to be heard and listened to, I had to take some sort of professional training to teach, because I wasn't going to be taken seriously. Because what I was describing to them, on the type of birth that I was describing to them, they could not imagine it. It was impossible. And one of the things I remember someone saying to me is, you can't change Pakistan. You can't change the doctors. You can't change the culture. But then I used to think about this and I used to thought, subhanAllah, Allah blessed us with this body. He gave us what we need. Everything is within us, not the people around us. That's why anyone can birth anywhere in the world and go through the same procedure. What's different about Pakistan? And it wasn't about changing the culture, changing the doctors, changing the hospital. It was actually changing the mindset of the women. It was about them reclaiming their pregnancies, reclaiming their bodies, reclaiming their babies, and taking the responsibility to do what they need to do, because we all have it within us, and that's the way Allah has created us. This innate ability to for our bodies to um, take over, and we can do this. But
Absolutely.
the problem was is not trusting our own instincts. It's not trusting what we feel. We kind of block it all out so that we can't we're not listening to ourselves. And I feel that it's our fitra, our deep instincts, is what is calling us out, that because we are blocking it and we're listening to all the noise around us, that we refuse to listen. So all I tried to offer was to open that mindset, open our hearts, go deep within, and to listen to what is our bodies calling us to. The babies in our wombs, what are they calling us out to? Because it's a very instinctual journey. And subhanAllah, just that whole process of going back to your fitra, going back to what your body is calling for, even if the mums did not go through that perfect birth, they changed. There was a transformation. And when I saw this transformation, and when they themselves felt this transformation, the people around them started to change. And that's when I realized that, subhanAllah, we as human beings will always go back to our fitrah. It's always there.
It's a ripple
It's the
effect.
blueprint that we have.
It's
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have this blueprint that Allah has given us, that He actually, subhanAllah, that we all get at, subhanAllah, at the time of conception. We're given a blueprint, and that doesn't change. But subhanAllah, it's our environment, the everything that happens after that within the womb, and it's actually after 6 to 8 weeks in the womb, and that's when we start to evolve. But that blueprint will always be there, and we can always come back to that blueprint, because that's the perfection. That's what the fitrah, that's what Allah has given us, and that any experiences that we have, whether it's tests and trials or tribulations, subhanAllah, it's all a blessing to help us get back to that strong blueprint. And
absolutely.
everybody's journey is different.
Absolutely. So, but yeah, I'm just, this is just on a light note. I'm not surprised that you were surprised to come here in Pakistan because, as they say it, and again, this is just on a light note, that we are more Westerners than the Westerners themselves. We are more,
Yes.
unfortunately, but alhamdulillah, we're catching up, right? So we are trying to go back to our fitra, and these terms and these understandings are no more as alien as they used to be perhaps a decade ago. One of the things
Definitely.
that, as I'm speaking, Faria, that's coming to my mind is that childbirth classes that has personally benefited me a lot. And the generation above us, or even, some of our friends and families who do not understand, sometimes even husbands. So, they are like, everyone gives birth. So what's that about going to classes and understanding about childbirth? So how would you help a sister convince their husbands or families or anyone who is contentious towards this whole process of understanding the birth process or taking classes or understanding the body and connecting back to fitra, all of what we advocate in a natural birth? How would you help that sister to convince other people?
It's true. In our history, birthing has always been something that was natural, traditional, and you really didn't really need much help. And you really don't need a childbirth educator. But subhanAllah, we're not living those times now. A lot of things have changed. Traditionally, birthing was done in the home. You had people that were around you, or the supporting woman that was with you knew your family, knew your grandparents. They knew you. They knew your whole family for years and years. They had that connection with you, and the birthing mother would trust that person. And these are the wise women. And this is how birthing used to be. But unfortunately, when birth was taken to hospitals, we lost that connection with other women because women actually support other women. And I won't go too much, but in the history of gynecology, it men took over. It went into the hospitals, mainly in Europe, and then medical books were written. Gynecology was written from a male's perspective, and things changed. And then this got spread throughout the rest of the world. Um, so now what we were experiencing is not something that um, we are used to. If you think about our fitra, this is not what our fitra was used to. There's been a lot of changes in the hospitals. And you will go from one hospital to the next, and there'll be different protocols, there'll be different procedures. You go from one country to the next, and there's a wide range of procedures, interventions, or protocols that are different. So, what is right for that mother and that baby, only she will know. And she can only know when she understands her own body, when she understands. So it's like unschooling a lot of thoughts, a lot of things that are happening or what they've seen. Now, a lot of the mothers or a lot of the women that are around these birthing mothers or pregnant mothers often have had a traumatic experience themselves. And so they've had a really difficult time. And then their daughter or sister, whoever is pregnant now, and they're relaying their information. You need to go to the hospital. Let's do this quickly. There's a high C-section rate of those who choose to have a C-section because they want to avoid the pain. They want to avoid all of these um, uh, scenarios because it's horrible. It's a traumatic experience. Don't go through it. Just baby in and baby out. Not because um uh these other women don't want good for you. It's because they've had a bad time and they don't want you to go through a bad time. And it's their love for the other sister that to save them. But sadly, these traumatic stories that these other women are experiencing is a result of not actually allowing a physiological birth to happen, because Allah has given us everything inbuilt to have this um, beautiful experience. Because Allah did not burden us with more than we can bear. Mothers are honored, their status is high just because of the fact that they're able to go through a pregnancy, they're able to birth, they're able to nurse their babies. And there's a lot of value in this. So why would, I remember one student said to me, it makes sense. Why would Allah put us through something so traumatic? It just doesn't make sense. This is not the quality of and the attributes of Allah, of my Lord. He would not do this to us. So why are we feeling this? There must be something wrong. What we're going through is not correct. And this is where a lot of unschooling needs to be happening, where they realize that actually, pregnancy is not a medical situation. It is not a medical condition. And inshallah, if you do take care of yourself, if you do give your body and listen to your body and give it what it needs, then it can be an amazing experience. And alhamdulillah, that has changed, alhamdulillah. And I think when mothers have realized this, and mothers usually ones are the first to pick up on this because they need that emotional well-being, they need that physical, mental, spiritual uplifting during their pregnancy. And when they receive that, then they realize, yeah, this is it. But the people around them, it's harder for them because they don't see this. They don't go through what a mother goes through when she's pregnant. And however, when you see the mother going through this, it has a ripple effect on the people around them. And And then the husbands are like, wow, what did they do to her? She becomes a lot more confident. She's in a lot better health, mentally and physically. Her baby is doing well. She is doing well. And the conversations she now is having with her husband or her family or even with a doctor is full of confidence. It's full of I can do this and I am going to be doing this.
Absolutely. And again, Freya, when we are going to the hospitals, I think the level of blind trust, and you very rightly mentioned the effect of colonization. So we are, in terms of, our mental status, we are still colonized because sending our children to school is such a norm that, thinking otherwise is perhaps criminal. Or going to hospitals when we are expecting or when we have to give birth, it is so much of a norm that thinking otherwise is like, what are you even talking about? So inshallah, I hope that we are able to decolonize ourselves, and I can see that, alhamdulillah, winds have started to blow in that direction. A little bit more about what happens in, let's say, childbirth classes. Which area do you cover? Which area do you sort of enlighten the sisters on? And are there any for the husbands as well, so they should understand that what they are, going to get themselves into?
Yeah, definitely. So the classes I offer, so I was trained by Amani Beth, Alhamdulillah, which is an excellent organization that is very Islamically integrated, which is SubhanAllah, really for me made a big difference. Despite having six births already, which I felt was pretty good, with my seventh, because I wanted to start teaching this, um, I felt that it had to come from Islam. For me, birthing is not possible without Islam. Birthing is not possible without Allah. I could not discuss this topic with anyone or teach it to women without them reconnecting themselves to Allah and understanding that everything that Allah has designed for them perfectly. Um, so that's how it started. What I personally cover in my classes is a very holistic approach, meaning that I emphasize a lot on their um, mental, their emotional well-being, the spiritual side of things, as well as the physical side. And really getting mothers to understand what it means to feel nurtured, because we live in a well-resourced society. We have access to getting the foods that we need, doing exercises if we need to, going to going for walks, doing all of these things. Yet we still have mothers who are very stressed at the end of their pregnancies, are having complications, yet they have access to all the things that they need, very well resourced. So what was going on here? It was because, in my opinion, is that their primary needs were not being met. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean that you need to, make sure you have excellent blood work or this, that. It was because they were looking, and it's natural for a mother to be taken care by somebody else. And there was a lot of reliance on them taking care of my physical needs, my mental needs, my spiritual needs, maybe, relying on the husband. But life is not like the way it used to be before. We used to live in big families. We had mums and aunts and grandmothers, and all women take
Yeah,
care of
the
different
entire
needs.
village.
Yeah, yeah, the entire village. You would have, your neighbor, women know what women need, and then you have a meal cooked for you, you have your children taken away from you for a while. We don't have that. And instead, I felt that I was spending more time in getting mums to be their own village, to take care of their own needs, not to be reliant on other people, not even on your husband, because the lifestyle right now is quite difficult. Economically, the men have their responsibilities outside their house, and we're inside their house, and the responsibilities that we need to do. It doesn't mean that said pregnancy is full of depression, postpartum is full of depression. Because no, that is not the default. That is not how it should be. That's how it's become. And so taking mothers back to, okay, What are your physical needs? What are your mental needs? What are your spiritual needs? What is it that you need to feel loved and cared? What is it that you need to do? Not what other people need to do around you, but what is it that you need to do? Because that's what you have control over. You don't have control over other people, you have control over yourself. What is it that you need to do to feel mentally relaxed? What is it that you need to do to feel spiritually relaxed? And pregnancy and birth, and to be honest, just the different seasons that a woman goes through in life, it's very hormone led. And what drives our hormones? Our feelings. So by addressing those feelings and tending to those is going to make sure that um, all the food that we eat is going to be well received. All the exercise that we do is going to be well received. But if we are not there in that deep connection with ourselves, serving ourselves, we're no good to anybody, let alone ourselves. That's what I try to focus more than anything else. And then once we've established that, and that's the grounding, I feel is the core, and then everything else just blossoms from that. They will want to eat, they will want to move, they will want to do all of these other things.
Subhanallah, subhanallah. Because, yeah, I think that, s- when it comes to tests and trials and tribulations in life, I think pregnancy is again one of the challenges and tests of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in one way or the other. So we do prepare for all the tests, right? You think about the university test, we put in so much effort, we take classes, we go here, there, tuition, extra YouTube material. But when it comes to pregnancy, I mean, take it as a test of Allah that you need to prepare for. And you need, first up, you need to be aware of what you're getting yourself into. I mean, I'm not saying it in a negative sense. I know this phrase has a negative connotation attached to that. But what I'm saying in a very positive way, right? So you need to understand uh, what is going to be happening, how to deal with that. And it's not just that you start expecting, you conceive, and then 9 months later you go to the hospital and you leave all the decisions, I mean, such crucial decisions of life, you leave it to the doctors. Or perhaps you don't even know whether to say yes to this or no to that, or all of the procedures that. So once you are aware of what is going to happen to you, or if you choose natural birth or hospital birth, whatever it may be. I mean, I wouldn't call hospital birth a natural birth, please, my apologies. I hope it's not taken as an offense. But anyway, so the point that I'm trying to make is that we need to make sure that we are aware of whatever is going to happen as we conceive and as we give birth. So I think I'm probably going to give a testimonial that personally it has benefited me a whole lot, like a complete difference. By my two children, one, I was not aware of anything at all. Second, I was completely aware of. So all the decisions that we made together, me and my husband, they were totally different. And it was, again, the way you said, subhanallah, I completely agree. It was such a confident birth that you know what is going to happen next. Bidnillah, with the idhn of Allah. So, but yeah, subhanallah, you are doing so much. So, I will definitely be asking some questions around coming to Pakistan. But let me know, how do you manage? Because I know that both of us are coming from a place where we know that our family is our priority, our husband, our children are our priority. Whether uh, perhaps we do give it this sort of impression or not, but we know that. So,
Mm.
how do you balance, right? Homeschooling and subhanallah, then your passion. How do you balance all of that?
I'll answer this in a minute. I just want to come back to the question about fathers, because I think that makes a big difference to actually how we manage it in a home as well. You mentioned about our fathers are able to do these childbirth classes and everything. Now, something that I try to drive home to a lot of couples is your parenting starts now. It doesn't start when the baby is born or when they go to school or when you're thinking about their education. It starts from when the baby, even when you're choosing your spouse, subhanAllah, your parenting starts then because you're actually choosing the mother or the father of your child. So these decisions that we make as parents even starts from when we get married and then, from conception. And then when the baby is in the womb, the decisions that what you choose to inhale, what you choose to intake, ingest, or whatever. This is a parenting choice, and parents, as a union, as a mother, as a father, And so, alhamdulillah, what I have seen, and a lot of people saying in Pakistan, the men don't change, they're very they're not like maybe the Western women where men where they're all involved. Um, they're usually not involved because it's always usually been a women's domain. But then when we don't have this village anymore, and we've got these women that have experienced trauma, you really don't want someone like that coming into your circle. And what I feel especially is the husband and wife, subhanAllah, it took, and this question came up in one of my awareness sessions that I did, that, why should we involve men? And my answer, and why should they be there at the time of birth or during the hospital? And my answer to that really is, well, he was there at the time of conception. And if he is able to be there at the time of the, so I'm assuming he was there at the time of conception, um, at the time of the birth, you, which is the most intimate time, the most time that you are most exposed to, open to, mentally, physically, and spiritually, who is the person that you're going to want to be there? It's going to be your mahram, your husband, the one that knows you better than anyone else, the one that knows your baby, who cares for your baby more than anyone else. Not any strange people in that room, not that the male doctor, the male nurse, or the male whoever who seems to be in all of these places. It's going to be your husband, and he will connect you like no other. He is your pain relief. And men actually do want to be there, but it's the thing is that they don't know what to do. Um, no, they don't want to see their wives go through a lot of pain. But then when they are educated and they know what to expect and they know what they can offer and they know what they can do, then mashallah, the fathers who you think are not able to do anything, they're the ones at the forefront. Because remember, even at the hospital, you mentioned about natural birth, don't want to refer it to hospital birth, but you can have a natural birth anywhere. If you are well informed and you're educated and you have your supportive person with you, even if you are alone, and I'm saying this from experience as witness to many women in Pakistan, you can have your natural, and I'm going to call it a physiological birth, because a physiological birth is when you allow the body to do what it needs without disturbances. You can do it at home, you can do it at the hospital, you can do it on the way to the hospital in the car, you can do it anywhere. You know, and many women have done, and that is not a limitation. Now, when you have a father that is involved, the connection to that mother post birth, which many mums have told me, is like something changed in our relationship. It went on to another level. And then you're starting a family together. And you're with, subhanAllah, you're with this newborn, with this father who was there, who was connected to this baby. The raising of that child is completely different. Your relationship with that person is extremely different in your home. Your home setup changes. So when you started asking me about, balancing everything out, when they are so involved with your health, with and it means that you have to let them in, by the way, because a lot of women do not let them in. You have to open your doors and
Please
allow
don't
them
do
to come
that.
in.
No, don't do that. I'm really sorry, just interrupting a little bit because, when men see that what their wives are going through, they have that they are a totally changed person. Otherwise, a very cliched understanding in our society is, what different are you doing? All women give
Mm,
birth. What's so different that you're doing? Well, once they see that, and wallahi, Fareeha, my own brothers. Even brothers-in-law, I told them that you have to be there. Go see what she's going through, right? First up, of course, she needs your support.
mm,
And second, you need to see what she goes through. So then when she comes home, you're able to provide that, compassion, that empathy that she needs. Post
absolutely.
she has gone through quite a lot. And if you don't see it with your eyes, that ainul yaqeen, that is not, subhanallah, that is not, if it's not there, then of course you don't believe what you hear. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
sisters, please do allow your men to be there. And of course, perhaps the elders in your family may not like it. But yeah, somebody somewhere has to take that stand to change the trends.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it has happened. And it has happened in Pakistan and more fathers. And I have to say, that if you want things to change in Pakistan, if you want the hospitals to change, then the men need to be there. Why do the men need to be there? Because they're the ones that are signing the forms. They listen to the fathers, not to the mothers, when you are in labor. So when you, and subhanAllah, in a lot of hospitals, they don't allow other women, but they seem to be okay with men, the husbands, in some places. And reason being is because they can manipulate the men. Men don't know anything, and we just say, there's this problem, and he'll just sign it away. But when he is informed and he stands up, then this is where we get the most beautiful stories. And this is when it's like, men, it's in their fitra to be their protector, to be their leader, to take care of their family. It's in their fitra. When you suppress that from a man, he breaks down. He's not able to be his full self. When you allow him to have the opportunity to take lead, to take control, to be that protector, to earn that respect that he wants, then he is the best of men's.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Subhanallah.
And on a very funny note, Fareeha, I remember when I gave birth to my son, we had both myself and my husband had taken the classes. So after that, the doctor came to me and she said, "How does your husband know so much? Has he also taken the classes?" Yeah, that's how, because the constant pressure of shall we go through for C-section and all of that. So when husbands are standing there, they're resisting and they're allowing them, they give her time and all of that. So if it is coming from an informed place, then the decision is very, very different. They're able to withhold that pressure that moment is throwing at them. So yeah, subhanallah, and of course when you learn together, you grow together. Did I interrupt
Absolutely.
you saying something else?
No, no. No,
Um,
no, no. I was just going to say that when the father is taking lead, it helps the mother to take a step back. It helps her to just focus on what she needs to do during that time. And then he takes over. And then when he is like that, that relaxes the mother. When
absolutely.
she says my man is taking care of the needs, it relaxes her. And it's very important for women when they're in labor, when they're in a hospital situation, is to feel loved, to feel relaxed. And it doesn't have to be the hospital environment or the doctors. It just needs that one person, and that person can be the husband, and that is usually the best person to create that environment.
And of course, then is also able to develop that empathy, compassion, that soft corner for you that you need to raise that child the child that you're bringing to the world. Fareeha, one question that is, I hope that's not too intrusive, but can I ask what brings you to Pakistan when everyone is leaving Pakistan? You're coming here. What's so special about us? Yeah, I want to listen good thing about Pakistan. Yeah.
It's quite funny. My husband is not Pakistani, by the way, so that's probably even a bigger question. I am Pakistani. My parents left Pakistan when they were quite young, and it's quite funny because they actually visited recently and they just left this week. And even still, they're like, after all these years, it's like, why did you come here? We went to the UK to settle, for a better life. Um, but subhanallah, um, when we were in the UK, I found it, this is from my perspective. My husband has a different perspective, but with mine, it was like, I was fine. We didn't have the idea of going to Pakistan. We just wanted to go to a Muslim country. Um, and the main thing that I had with where I was living in the UK, we had a wonderful Islamic society, community. We had our local masjid, which was wonderful. We were there all the time. My children were there all the time. Um, we had, I mean, I've been homeschooling since the beginning, but I did, for my firstborn, we went to a Muslim uh, Montessori sort of early year school. And my firstborn was there for first, I think, a year or two. Again, it was a wonderful school. It was wonderful. The teachers were amazing. But then I realized that there were some things that were coming up that I realized that they do not know my child. They do not know my child like the way I do. They were mentioning things like, because he speaks Arabic as his first language, and this is an English speaking school, and they were like, oh, he can't read or he can't speak English. But I knew he could. But obviously there was something that was stopping him from speaking. Maybe he wasn't as confident enough. But just that label on him, I felt that was going to suppress his potential. And I knew my child. So we took him out and we continued to homeschool him. And alhamdulillah, he's 18 years old now and he's a very different person from what they thought he was at that time. But despite having this amazing environment Islamically, there was things missing. I felt that a lot of the Muslims in the West were in like a bubble. They were creating a bubble, and I could see children being raised that were not in reality with what's going on in the world. They were very dependent on a society that was feeding them. And um, what I was seeing as when I went through school, college, or university, I did everything in the UK. I was working, and I could see things around me at that time that was starting to change that I didn't like. And subhanAllah, when we made a decision to leave, I don't know whether it was because we left and we could see things from an outsider's perspective, but one after the other, the fitan was being increased and increased and increased. And people told us we were crazy to leave with our young children. They were saying that you have to have a lot of savings. We went with very little. We left with very little. We left with in a car with our children, everything that we owned in the car, and we just drove. Because the first movie we went to was Morocco, so we drove from the UK to Morocco. But subhanAllah, the moment we left, I could see one thing after another. And I think other people, if had I continued to be there, would I have been blind to all of these things around me? Because when you're in a society, when you're in a situation, you don't actually see as much as you do as when you see things from the outside. And this is what I noticed more. But we were seeing a lot of few things at that time. And I thought, one of the main thing was my husband or us as a family, we're not able to have much time together because that is the life. Their mum's working, father's working, kids are at school. You don't have time for each other. There's a lot of stress. There's no barakah in the day. And that's what we noticed when we left the UK. But having said that, even just going to another Muslim country, it wasn't easy. But then Hijra wasn't easy either, and we didn't expect it to be easy. We were told that your kids are going to get ill. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. You're going to come back. So we burnt our bridges. We made sure that there was no reason for us to come back. We didn't leave anything behind so that it would be easy for us to come back. Because a lot of people do move, come to another country, but then it's more to try it out. And if it doesn't work out, we'll go back. People thought we were crazy, leaving everything, and then just going. But we were quite determined. And we thought that we had to make it. We had to do we had to make it work. There was no going back now. And as a result, subhanAllah, it wasn't easy, but at the same time, we saw things that we would never have seen in the UK. My children experienced things that they would never experienced elsewhere. And even when we have our low days here, I think we always tend to talk about these things. We always tend to reflect on these things. And now today, when I think about the way I am living, I live somewhere remote at the moment. We don't have our electricity runs on solar. SubhanAllah, the way we are living now, I was thinking, had we lived the life we did then we would never live the way we were. We wouldn't be so easily adaptable to things that we have had to experience then. The opportunity that Allah gave us, where at the time we thought was very difficult, but it was to build something, and it was to build us. And subhanAllah, now when I think about Gaza and I think about what they are going through, and I think, well, we've got it easy. We've had it easy. And I think, when Allah, it's going to come to all of us. When Allah tests us, how we are going to be? How are we going to respond? How are we going to react? Because at the end of the day, it's not about how we live, but it's about how we die. It's about the akhirah. How are we going to achieve that? Because one of the main things I felt from the West and then from here is everything was very dunya based. And I felt that this is not the education that I want to give to my children. This is not how I want to raise them. I try to raise them as if I'm not going to be there tomorrow. I want them to be self-sufficient, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And, you know, I haven't got it right. I don't know the perfect way to create this, but the way we have reached here today is through Allah. We did not plan anything. We did not plan to come to Pakistan. We did not plan, I did not plan to do the work I do in Pakistan. I don't know where that came from, subhanAllah. It is all from Allah. And I think this is the barakah of Hijra. This is what the
Also, because we
the
need,
ni'mah.
yeah, Pakistan needed, there was, at least I did not hear of any such thing earlier before you came. So, Pakistan needed you, I guess. All of the ladies here needed you.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. I think I did it then. SubhanAllah, we had a graduation for my midwifery course, and it was very emotional. And I wrote a little speech, and this is like a non-Muslim organization, SubhanAllah. But for me, I kind of I dress like this. Obviously, they can see that I'm a Muslim. But SubhanAllah, I remember writing this my graduation speech, and it it started off with I had came here, I had come doing this training with this intention. I wanted to change Pakistan. I wanted to change the people. I wanted to do this. I wanted to do that. But the way I ended it was, subhanAllah, going through this training, spending time with women. Actually, Pakistan changed me. The women changed me. It wasn't me changing them. They changed me. And that's why, subhanAllah, uh, Allah brought me here for that reason. It wasn't for me to benefit the people. It was because He wanted me to change, which I
Yeah.
wouldn't have done elsewhere.
So beautifully put. So beautifully put. Yeah, and yes, I keep saying, because I mean, those of you who know me, you know that I'm very it's not about being a person who's more nationalist or something like that. I'm still more gravitating towards the ummah. But generally speaking, I don't like people bashing Pakistan, because subhanAllah, we have so many opportunities here that you don't have in any part of the world. And atop being for people who are very vocal like me, the freedom of expression that we enjoy here. Yes, there are things happening, but still we can have halaqat. We can still have our, the way we want to run our businesses, perhaps, the way we want to, gather people and enlighten them about something is still opportunity for that. And quite a lot of that, right? The homeschooling, the way our homeschooling community operate, alhamdulillah. So, moving right along, perhaps I alluded to this question earlier, but a little bit more on that. What would you advise, Fareeha, when it comes to young girls and they want to live their passion and at the same time, have a very home-centric life where they are nurturing their kids, taking care of their families, husband, because I'm sure that you would be aware that we have a version here, liberals, feminists, Islamic feminists, who are telling us
Mm.
that you're more than just a housewife and more than just a homemaker. So as to perhaps, give an impression that perhaps homemaking or taking care of husband and children is something of not that value, perhaps if you're had you been contributing to the corporate world, it would have been better. Career oriented, it would have been better. And it's all over the world, perhaps not just in Pakistan. So what would you recommend? There are girls, they have passion, but family is the foundational, it's the central unit of the society. So if you're not taking care of our children, if you're not taking care of our husband, our families, then perhaps the society is going to suffer big time. Yeah,
Yes.
what's your suggestion?
SubhanAllah, it is a very global issue, sadly, and it is especially deep within our ummah now because of what we see around us. How do you define a successful woman? SubhanAllah, what is defined as a supermom? I mean, SubhanAllah, this word supermom comes a lot up with me, and I often thought, what do you mean by supermom? Is it because the one that is takes care of her children, is out working, is doing this, is doing that? This is the supermom. No, this is not the super mum. This is the exhausted mum. This is the mum that he's going to have a crash. This is the mum that's not taking care of herself. The super mum is the one that is resting, relaxing, is spending time with her kids, that is saying no when she needs to say no. Is the one that balances her time and gives everything their rights and their responsibilities. It's okay to not be in every event. It's okay not to be out there working, and or to limit your hours that you're out there. So the definition of what makes um, an amazing woman, unfortunately, has been deteriorated. It's put on a higher place, and it's a very superficial. Because again, going back to the fitra, and I have to keep going back to the fitra because this is how Allah created us. And we will not be happy until we go back to our fitra. No matter how much we try to fight it, how much we think we are happy, we are not content. And our fitra really is to be with our families. It is really to be with, have be happy in our homes. And that can't happen until you are actually present in your homes. And when I say present, I mean mindfully present. Not, your mind's thinking about doing things, this, but you are not actually there mindfully present, absorbing what your husband is saying to you, absorbing what your children are saying to you. So for girls, I mean, I have a teenager, and subhanAllah, I do feel that and it's something that we try to do with our children, is actually to prepare them for marriage from the age of puberty, you know, um, quite early on. And when I say preparing them for marriage, what I mean is, knowing that they have a responsibility for somebody else, knowing that you actually do have to create a home. What creates a home? It's not just the four walls. And trust me, we are living in walls, you know, that are just bricks, but yet we are happy, alhamdulillah. Um, it is not the way you decorate a home that creates contentment of the heart. It is your relationships that you have with those that are under your trust. So whether it's your husband, your children. Now, if you're so used to thinking that you need to serve the needs outside the house as a young girl, it's very difficult for them to think that, I need to take care of this person that I have, married, or be responsible for um, maintaining the happiness within the home, because it does boil down to the mother when it comes to this, because she is the queen of her house. And if she doesn't take that responsibility, just like with birth, somebody else will take over. And when somebody else or something or some appliance or technology takes over, then that's not a home anymore. And what we thrive on relationships. So it's about building those relationships. And that's what is lost. Um, so I think defining the role of a male and a female is very important, because yes, you can have your interests and you can have your hobbies and you can have your uh, academic aspirations. All of this is possible, but your primary core responsibility is going to be with the young girls is they will be getting married. And marriage has to be something that they look forward to, not something that is going to be something that is a death sentence. That's it. I'm going to be in prison. So it's a lot of education to do with what is marriage to begin with. What does marriage mean? And unfortunately, you can't see, you can't use other families as role models. You need to go back to the seerah, and we have beautiful examples of marriages. And we need to get girls and boys even before they reach the age of puberty, because in the understanding to fall back in love with the idea of marriage, and that is something that they look forward to, something that they're going to blossom as a couple. And this is going to encourage them wanting to do things to build their homes. And it's not just the girls, it's the boys as well. And maybe I'm saying this because I have five boys, but it's preparing them as well, because it's a union, it's a teamwork. And when you have mother and when you have the husband and you have the wife, both with the same mindset going into this, then they will want to work together. They will want to work hard. They will want to create this beautiful union between them. But you can't go into it blindly. And it does take years of preparation, understanding their responsibilities. I personally are of the opinion that men are responsible for outside the house duties, and I feel that the women are responsible. Their primary role is within the home.
Rightly said.
But you can't get that overnight. If you've sent your child or you've allowed your girl to be out there all the time, to um, be at certain places all the time with no restrictions, no mahram, no this, no that. Then all of a sudden they get married. You expecting them to serve your husband, serve this, stay in the home. That's not going to work. It
Absolutely.
has to be inbuilt in them. Um, and same with the boys. You can't expect your son to all of a sudden get married and take the responsibilities of outsiders if you've never given him that responsibility to take care of the situation outside the house, to
Absolutely.
help their father take those responsibilities on. And I feel that that's what we're lacking in. We're not raising men, we're not raising women. We're
I,
waiting until they get married.
I couldn't agree more, Faria. It's resonating so much with me because perhaps it's coming very naturally to some of us that we need to prepare our children. I mean, think about it. The other narrative is so strong. You know, they come to our children all the time and they ask, "Beta bade hoke kya banoge?" I don't know how to say that in English. What do you want to be when you grow up?
When you're older.
So
Yeah.
it's like they are preparing for all that, whether you want to be engineer, doctor, or something. They're asking you since childhood. But if you see like
Mm.
mothers like perhaps me and my children, and even they haven't hit puberty, but still I joke about marriage. I keep telling my son, you're the man of the house and you have the responsibility. Keep
Yes.
instilling in his head. He's barely 9, but I just keep telling him that. Even my daughter, I keep telling, and wallahi, sometimes, I'm so mindful of what I'm doing because I'm seeing that my daughter is watching me, and she's just going to do the
Yeah.
same because perhaps some of us have learned quite a lot of things from our mothers, even they were not very consciously teaching those skills or traits to us. And yeah, we have to be very, very mindful when it comes to, and especially when the other narrative is so strong and getting stronger day by day. And we have to, put our narrative out there as well. And I completely agree when you say we have to prepare them from an early age when it comes to taking responsibilities, getting married. I couldn't have said better than you, Fariha. Thank you very much for that. Um, one
Subhanallah, so I'm going to interrupt you there. Sorry to interrupt you. You mentioned about how your daughter, looks up to you and sees you as an example. And I think for me, when I'm thinking about preparing my daughter for marriage, one of the things that I had to change was to be that wife that I want her to be. And that was hard for me because, I didn't, a lot of these things that I do now is come from years and years of mistakes, years and years of things that I just didn't know. And I feel like I'm learning now. And Alhamdulillah, it's good because it's improved my relationship with my family and my husband. But I didn't realize how important it is because subconsciously they can read all the books and they can do all the things, but they're going to follow what they see.
I see.
And it's very important for us to display what we want them to 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 practice in their own lives. And so little things like, I would advise that, we often advise people, and I'm I admit to this that I do this. I often advise people certain things that I maybe not doing myself, but I'm advising them because I want them to do it because I didn't do it. And now I've realized that with my own children, that I need to practice the things that I want them to do so that it becomes a lived experience. So it becomes natural for them. That this is the norm. This is what, like, for example, my family think that going to a hospital means that you must be dying. That's the only reason you would go to the hospital. Um, so for them, it's like, okay, you know, for medication, they would go to the honey, they would go to the black seed oil, they would go to these things. This is normal for them. So
Hmm.
even when it comes to marriage, what is normal? We have to create that normal, and expose when you've got such a heavy influence on the other narrative. we need to heavily influence them on, you know, the beautiful examples that we have in the seerah. We need to keep bringing them back to the Quran. That needs to be their reference point. And that's why I feel probably in our homeschooling journey that the Quran, the Islam, the Arabic is probably the majority, the core of their foundation. Because any learning that they have done, they know that they can come back to that and that will be their reference point, inshallah. And you can't get that from anything else, any other educational system
And
or curriculum.
And for this, perhaps mothers need to, educate themselves first. So those of us who have not come from a background where, Quran and Sunnah, they were, all of us come, at least I'm coming from a very secular background when it comes to my education. But if we do not, take this initiative of consciously making ourselves aware that this education is so important, Quran, Sunnah, Arabic language, and we need to consciously take out time for that so that we are able to present something to our children tomorrow and we are not able to complain that, oh, the schools didn't teach that. Why did I not teach them? So I'm saying this very humbly and
Mm,
not giving an impression that, I'm a perfect mom, not even being near to that. But what I can say is that I'm trying. At least we are trying, right? I don't know what
absolutely.
products are eventually we are able to give to the society, but at least we are trying. And I hope my daughter does not look up to me and she looks up to someone better. It's just that when she's around, I know that she's watching and she'll be learning. So I'm very careful
Mm,
about, little things. Baba will come, we'll ask Baba, let Baba come. And Baba will guide us on that. Something to establish the fact that he's the Qawwam at home, right?
yes.
So I hope that inshallah Allah grants us some level of success when we do that. And I hope that we are able to change some minds when we are having some conversation around that. Any last word that I'm forgetting and you want to add, Fareeha, before we inshallah call it a day?
I think something that maybe both of us can relate to in the type of work that we are involved with. So, every day we're interacting with many people. Um, but at the end of the day, our priority is going to be our husbands and our children. These are the ones that we're going to be accountable for. These are the ones that we're going to be questioned for. So, even if you, no one's perfect. There is no perfect woman. There is no perfect mother. My Arabic is not good, yet my children are speaking Arabic. It doesn't mean that you have to be perfect in these areas for your children to be doing these things. It's about giving them the opportunities or exposing them to what they need. You can outsource things. You can do whatever you can. The priority is not understanding what the priority is and giving them what they need. It doesn't have to be all from you.
I
Um, and also just to really, what you do need to prioritize on is your own needs. And what I mean by your own needs is your mental well-being, your spiritual well-being, your physical well-being. Um, you know, I know it's a cliche, but eating well is very important. Sleeping well is very important because the reason why women are just they're not coping is because they're not sleeping well, they're not eating well, they're not they don't have the energy to do the things that they truly want to do. And every woman wants to. They want to be the best version of themselves for their children, for their husbands, for everybody else. But when you're not in that space, then this is where you become depressed. This is where you have a burnout. This is where you become to let other people take over. So prioritizing your own needs, prioritizing your own care is extremely important. Getting the help that you need to get to that level you need to be so that you can together grow together as a family. It's not that you are teaching your children or taking care of the needs of your husband and that's it. No, you work together as a family. You help each other as a family. You grow together as a family because we're always learning.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as you're speaking, Faria, just came to my mind that perhaps we can do an entire episode on holistic well-being. What does it mean to be holistically
Yes,
well, spiritual, physical, mental, all of that, bringing them together, inshallah. So perhaps we can schedule that as well. For now, I am so grateful.
inshallah.
Inshallah, I'll be putting all the links to your work, your Instagram, your Facebook, YouTube, and all those links together so that inshallah people can reach out to you. And personally, I would
جزاك
highly
الله خير.
recommend, since I know Fareeha personally, I would highly recommend her classes. SubhanAllah, just talking to Fareeha is so healing. So inshallah, I hope that you will reach out for your classes, your understanding, your natural birth processes. And inshallah, we will perhaps call Fareeha again so that we can learn more from her. For now, inshallah, my dear sisters, I hope whatever we are trying to do here was beneficial for you. If it has been beneficial for you, then please do try to act upon that. Make dua for us to act upon that and keep, inshallah, um, keep growing as a family. So I hope this was beneficial. Inshallah, see you again. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.